401. Project Management. We begin with the question, what is unique about a project? The choices we have for the answers are A. Originality but not terminability. Choice B is not originality but terminability. Choice C is both originality and terminability. And choice D is that neither is unique. So, as usual, let us go through the slides in order to answer the question. First of all, we need to know, what is a project? We use the word, but what does that actually mean? Well, a project, for the sake of achieving a specific objective, so we know that there needs to be some kind of objective, involves gathering a group of experts from the relevant departments in order to decide on issues such as when to carry out what actions and activities. So the issues are typically the W's, so when and what. PMBOK is an acronym which stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge, defines a project as a project is a temporary endeavor, so note that it says temporary endeavor, undertaken to create a unique product, service or result. So the key word actually, in fact, in this sentence is create. It's a temporary thing we're doing, and it's an endeavor, and we undertake it to create, whether it might be a product or a service or a result. So a project is fundamentally something that you do to create something. Now, we will now go on to discuss what projects involve. First of all, we will talk about terminability. The temporary nature of projects indicates that a project has a definite schedule. So we will underline this. A beginning and an end. The end point is reached when the objectives of the project is achieved, or those objectives cannot be achieved, or the need of the project no longer exists. So this is the key point. If you're going to do a project, you need to know what kind of timeline to do this in. And if you're going to have a timeline, you typically have a deadline or some kind of time that you'd like to finish by. The end point is desired to be finished within that deadline. So when is the end point? When can you say that a project is finished? So the question that we need to answer is, when can you say, when is a project finished? Okay, because we know that it's a temporary endeavor, and anything temporary has to start somewhere, but it also has to finish, has to end somewhere. So when can we say that a project has finished? Well, the three main ways that we can say a project is finished is when the objectives of the project is achieved, so we'll say success, or you find out that the objectives cannot be achieved, so we say that we find we can't do it, find objective is not possible, or the reason that you had the project in the first place now no longer exists. So the need for a project is no longer existent. So we say we don't need the project anymore. The project anymore. So those are the 3 times that you can say a project is finished. Another important aspect of projects is something called uniqueness. Every project creates a unique product, service or result. There may be some repetitive elements in the project deliverables or in the project activities, but the end result of a project is always unique. For example, soccer stadiums can be built with the same or similar materials. However, each stadium project remains unique with a different location, different design, different circumstances and situations, and so on. And again, we have the word unique here. So this example kind of illustrates what it means. Of course, if you're going to undertake the building of or the construction of a stadium, there's going to be some very, very similar processes between different stadiums. You're going to have concrete or metal or aluminium, things like this, and the materials may be similar, and even the building processes may be similar. But the design, for example, could be different. Typically they are. No two football stadiums or football clubs would want to have the same football stadium as some other football club. It would definitely be in a different location. And of course, if you have a different location, then you have, you're building on a different type of land, so it requires different structural designs and things like this. And you have, of course, the different circumstances. So no two projects are ever the same. And so this is the key point. What does uniqueness mean? So let's have the question, since we have it in red, we say, what does unique mean? So unique, and we say that the answer is no two projects are identical. And this is important. If you have two different projects, they are always going to have some differences, and they have to, because they will be in completely different circumstances and situations. So projects possesses both characteristics. So this is returning to the original question that we had. We talked about uniqueness just now. Two projects are not the same. And we talked about terminability when we were talking in the last slide about the timeline. So the terminability indicates that there is a clear end, and the uniqueness says that projects are always different. On a side note, project contains the following limitations and characteristics. First of all, we will talk about project constraints. So let me just highlight that it's a constraint. We have three main categories here. We have quality, cost, and delivery. Quality, the constraints say that the required standard of quality of the project and the deliverables. Cost, the available budget for the project, and delivery is the delivery date of the deliverables. So when you're having a project, you have to keep in mind the constraints that you have. These are kind of dependent on each other as well. The quality can depend on the cost that you have available to you. If you have lots and lots of money in your budget, then you may be able to increase the quality. You may even be able to speed up delivery. And so these are all kind of interdependent on each other. We can also talk about the characteristics of the project. In the characteristics, we have the four main categories. We have originality, terminability, finiteness of resources, and stepwise refinement. What does originality mean? Well, in originality, we're talking about creating deliverables with unique characteristics, and again, we have the word unique. If you're going to have a project, you'd like to make something that has your signature, something that makes it stand out from something else. Terminability, well, if we decide on a time frame, typically this is something like a deadline, or you need to have something finished by some particular time, then you want to be able to finish at some point. You could also have a limitation on the start time. You might not be able to start straight away. You might only be able to start from a certain time and then on. So terminability is also another characteristic of the project. This is all to do with the timeline. So it's all about scheduling. So deciding on a time frame and to build a schedule from start to finish. Finiteness of resources, well, you need to decide on the resources and the courses that you have available to you. If you want to design, for example, if we can continue with the football stadium analogy, if you want to design a football stadium that uses some material to make it very fancy and you don't even have the material, then you wouldn't be able to do that. So you need to be able to decide on how many resources you have and the courses you can take to use them. And the last category we have here is the stepwise refinement. We need to talk about the uncertainties in detail at different stages. You may not be able to predict everything that comes up straight from the beginning. This is all about planning. So you need to be able to also kind of allocate yourself some space, some uncertainty in detail at the different stages in your product. And so this is to do with the flexibility also. So as we saw in the previous slides, we saw that a project, in building a project, you want to talk about the terminability, and that is going to be talking about schedule. So what does that mean? So if you want to talk about when to start and finish your project within a particular timeline. So terminability is certainly a green tick. What else did we have? We also had uniqueness. You want your project, well, you want it to be unique, but also you can't avoid it from being unique in some way. Every project is always different from another project. Projects are always unique in their circumstance, situation and circumstance. So we also have that uniqueness has a green tick also. So the correct answer is that projects have terminability and uniqueness. So the answer is C.